The man whom Ava had been in love with for 10 years had become a father, and she was the last one to know about it. She stood outside the private room and saw the man easing the baby in his arms, with a look of utter fondness on his face while giving instructions to his friends in the circle. Don't let the news that I have a child with Olivia get out for now. Otherwise, Ava will definitely come back and make a scene with me. She had been in love with him for 10 years and confessed her feelings to him before going abroad. Clearly at that time he had said, "When you come back to the country, we'll be together." But the truth was so ridiculous. This time she didn't make a scene, not even a single accusation. Because she had decided to let go of Ethan completely. "Ethan, you've held such a grand full moon banquet for the baby. Aren't you afraid that the news will reach Ava's ears?" Ethan looked at the sleeping baby in the stroller, and his eyes were filled with a tenderness that Ava had never seen before. "It's my precious baby's full moon banquet. Of course, the grander it is, the better. Don't worry. I've already had people block the news. She won't know. Even if she does find out, so what? I can just take this opportunity to make things clear to her. The only reason I'm keeping it from her now is that I'm worried she'll come back and ruin the full moon banquet I prepared so carefully. You know that Ava has no sense of propriety at all. Where is there any trace of a lady from a prominent family?" Standing outside the private room, Ava heard the conversation clearly coming from inside through the crack of the door, and she felt an icy chill all over her body. Did Ethan hate her? But he had clearly told her himself that he liked her. If he hadn't called her a few days ago and said he missed her, Ava wouldn't have taken a special leave to come back to the country. She had originally wanted to give Ethan a surprise. Unexpectedly, not only did the surprise turn into a shock, but she also heard Ethan's true feelings. No one noticed Ava outside the door, and the conversation in the private room continued. Having been forcefully liked by his own adopted sister for so many years, our Ethan must have been really troubled, right? Fortunately, he has finally gotten rid of her entanglement, so of course, he has to speed up the progress of his life. But Ethan, do you also want to block the news of your grand wedding with your sister-in-law next month? Won't this wrong your sister-in-law? Ethan kissed the baby in the stroller and said, "We'll see then. I'll find an appropriate time to make things clear to Ava. Anyway, we can't let Olivia be wronged." At this moment, Olivia came out of the lounge in the private room with a baby bottle. "Ethan, you don't have to worry about me. Ava is just young and naive. I believe that when she grows up a bit more, she will surely figure things out on her own." Someone immediately flattered her, saying, "Our sister-in-law is really magnanimous and sensible. No wonder Ethan is head over heels for you. If I were to marry a wife like you, I would also dote on her in my hands every day." That's right. Although Ava and sister-in-law are best friends, why hasn't Ava learned even half of sister-in-law's qualities? A person in her 20s is still as annoying as a giant baby. Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter in the private room. Ava's heart outside the door suddenly tightened, and it almost stopped beating. They were right. She and Olivia had been good friends for more than 10 years. Before Ava went abroad, she had specifically asked Olivia to take good care of Ethan for her. At that time, Olivia agreed very readily and even patted her chest to promise that she would keep her beloved safe for her. But more than a year had passed, and their daughter had already reached the full moon. Ava never expected that the clutch-deep lot of a best friend stealing a husband, which she had seen on Evie, would happen to her. Looking at the happy family of 3 embracing each other in the private room, Ava suddenly woke up. She retracted her hand on the doorknob as if she had been electrocuted. What could she do even if she opened that door? Now she didn't even have the right to question Ethan and Olivia. After all, she and Ethan had never been officially together. Before going abroad, Ethan had only verbally promised her, "When you come back in 2 years, if you still like me, we'll be together." So whether Ethan and Olivia got married or had a child, it was their freedom. Ava took out her phone and opened WeChat. At a glance, she saw Ethan's profile picture at the top of the chat list. Since Ethan had taken the initiative to send a message saying "I miss you" last week, he hadn't contacted Ava again. No matter what messages Ava sent him, he didn't reply with a single word. Before today, Ava had only thought that he was busy with work. Now it seemed that he wasn't busy with work at all, but rather busy preparing for his child's full moon banquet. After rubbing her fingertips on the phone screen for a long time, Ava still clicked on Ethan's profile picture. She sent him a message. Ethan, what are you busy with? Why haven't you replied to my messages? Just after sending it, Ethan's phone in the private room rang. He picked it up and took a look. He just frowned slightly but didn't reply. Instead, he directly turned off his phone. Olivia, who was sitting beside him, saw the message and asked casually as if she didn't care, Ethan, is that a message from Ava? Why don't you reply? Ethan kissed Olivia's forehead, then took the baby from her hands and said in a cold voice, replying to her is just a waste of time. You know that I've always been annoyed by her. If it weren't for the fact that her parents once did my family a favor, and if it weren't for my father's instruction to take good care of her, I wouldn't even bother to act with her. Olivia, you're the only one I like. Because of her, you've suffered a lot of grievances over the years. Don't worry. After we get married, I will definitely make it up to you and the baby. Ava didn't continue listening to the following conversation. Instead, she turned around and left the hotel directly. The sunlight shone on her, but her expression was still a bit dazed. Suddenly, she seemed to hear someone calling her name behind her. She turned around and saw another friend of Ethan's. He was still holding a huge pink doll in his hand, which was obviously a full moon gift for the baby at a glance. There was a look of utter surprise in his eyes. Ava, when did you come back to the country? Why are you at this hotel? Could it be that you? Although he didn't finish his sentence, Ava knew what he wanted to ask. Ava pursed her lips and didn't know what to say for a moment. So she chose to ignore these questions and took a taxi and left directly. Sitting in the taxi, Ava looked at the scenery that kept receding and only then realized a cruel truth. The person she had been in love with for 10 years had never really liked her. Ethan had been lying to her all along, and even her best friend had been lying to her. She didn't understand what she had done wrong that made everyone treat her like this. Tears rolled down from the corners of Ava's eyes, and even the taxi driver couldn't help but look in the rearview mirror several times. At this moment, Ava's phone rang. This was the exclusive ringtone she had set for Ethan. Ava, are you back? His voice was as steady as usual, and there was not a trace of anything unusual. If she hadn't already discovered everything, she might still be kept in the dark by him. Ava wiped away the remaining tears at the corners of her eyes, quickly adjusted her emotions, and replied softly, yes, I'm back because of the school vacation. Then why didn't you tell me in advance? I could have gone to pick you up. I was afraid you were busy with work, so I didn't want to bother you. Ethan on the other end of the phone was silent for a moment, and then he asked again, just now, my friend said that he ran into you at the entrance of Jinghua Hotel. What were you doing there? Ava's fingers holding the phone involuntarily tightened. For some reason, she still didn't want to expose his lies, so she said, I went to meet a friend. Ava thought that if he could take the initiative to tell her all the truth now, then she would forgive his deception and just be real siblings with him. But the truth still disappointed her. Hearing her answer, Ethan on the other end of the phone finally relaxed his expression. Then you go home first. I have something to deal with here and can't get away. I'll come home to find you when I'm done. After saying that, the phone was directly hung up. It was not until the evening that Ethan hurried home. He had already changed out of the formal attire he had worn at the full moon banquet, but Ava could still smell the strong scent of milk on him. Noticing that Ava had been staring at him, Ethan quickly smiled and said, Ava, why have you been staring at me? We haven't seen each other for just over a year. Do you miss me that much? How long is your vacation this time? When will you go back? Hearing Ethan's questions, Ava clenched her fists tightly. She had just come back, and Ethan was already hoping that she would leave soon. Was he that afraid that she would ruin his happy family with Olivia? Just as Ava was about to speak, her eye suddenly fell on Ethan's wrist. Even though it was covered by a wristwatch, Ava still saw a red rose that had been tattooed on his wrist at some point. And Olivia's nickname was Rose, and the usernames of all her social media accounts were also Rose. The words that Ava had originally wanted to ask were once again swallowed back. All her fantasies vanished like smoke because of this rose. Clearly it was Ethan who had taken the initiative to make a promise to her before she went abroad. It was clearly him who, regardless of the difference between men and women, had taken the initiative to kiss her. It was also him who, while drunk, had confessed his love to her affectionately. It was even him who had not allowed other boys to get close to her. Everything Ethan had shown made Ava unable to deliberately control her emotions. But when she was deeply immersed in it, he told her that everything was just her wishful thinking. Ava looked into Ethan's eyes and said seriously, "Ethan, we grew up together since we were kids. You should know my feelings for you." Ethan looked indifferent. "Ava, don't worry. I'll wait for you to come back." Hearing such an answer, Ava suddenly laughed. Even at this moment, Ethan was still lying to her. Sensing that something was wrong with Ava's mood, Ethan's eyes were a bit gloomy, and his voice involuntarily became a bit nervous. "Ava, what's wrong with you?" Ava lowered her eyes and gently shook her head. "It's nothing. I'm just too happy." Only then did Ethan heave a sigh of relief. "It's good to be happy. Now I'll take you to have a meal to welcome you back." Ethan directly pulled Ava out of the door. Ava habitually opened the door of the copilot seat, only to see a pack of diapers, a doll, and a woman's handbag placed on the copilot seat. She was all too familiar with this handbag because it was the birthday gift she had given to Olivia last year. Ethan hastily explained. "My friend borrowed my car yesterday. These things must have been left in my car by him. How about you just make do with it today and sit in the back seat?" Ava didn't say anything. She just closed the door of the copilot seat and obediently sat in the back seat. After getting into the car, Ethan even deliberately adjusted the doll. After all, it was his daughter's favorite toy. As the car started moving, Ava didn't keep looking for topics to chat with Ethan as she used to. She just silently looked out of the car window. She didn't understand why Ethan could say he liked her on the one hand, and yet get married to someone else and have a child on the other hand. However, Ethan, contrary to his usual behavior, kept talking to her. He asked Ava, like a caring elder brother, how she was living abroad, whether she was used to it, and if anyone had bullied her. If it had been before, Ava would have been overjoyed that Ethan was showing such active concern for her. But now, she didn't want to listen to Ethan talking about all these irrelevant things. She just wanted him to tell her the truth of everything with his own mouth. Ava responded to Ethan's words in a perfunctory way. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, Ethan took out a box of mint candies from the glove compartment and handed it to Ava in the back seat. "Ava, I remember that you get carsick as soon as you ride in a car, so you especially like eating mint candies. I prepared these mint candies specially for you." Looking at the box of mint candies in her hand, Ava was stunned. She didn't get carsick when riding in a car. She didn't like mint candies at all because she would sneeze crazily as soon as she ate mint. Ethan had once specifically told her. It said online that sneezing after eating mint is because of an allergy to mint. So you must never eat mint candies in the future, and I'll help you remember that. But now, Ethan had completely forgotten about this. Because it was Olivia who got carsick. It was also Olivia who liked eating mint candies. Ava thought it was ridiculous. Sure enough, the difference between love and no love was that huge. "Thank you, but no. I don't like mint candies." Ethan frowned slightly. "What's wrong with you? Didn't you like mint candies before?" Perhaps Ethan had already sensed that something was wrong with Ava's mood, but he was too lazy to think deeply about it. After all, in his relationship with Ava, he was the one in the dominant position. Ava didn't want to say another word to Ethan, so she simply closed her eyes and pretended to be asleep. After arriving at the restaurant, Ethan didn't even get Ava the menu. He just ordered several dishes on his own. Soon, all the dishes were served. Ethan picked up a shrimp and put it on Ava's plate. "Eat more." You must have missed the local dishes a lot since you've been abroad for so long. All the dishes I ordered today are your favorites. Ava looked at the shrimp on the plate and found it difficult to start eating. She was allergic to shrimp. As long as she touched a little bit of it, red rashes would immediately appear on her body. And the other several dishes were all spicy. She had always had a weak stomach, so she never touched chili peppers. In the past, when she went out to eat with Ethan would specifically tell the waiter not to put any chili peppers in all the dishes. But now, in just over a year, things had changed completely and people had changed too. Ethan didn't notice Ava's abnormality at all. He just kept eating and talking to himself. By the way, you still haven't told me when you're going back. I heard from Dad that your supervisor at school values you very much and wants to keep you for further study. I think this is a great opportunity. You can think about it carefully. Ava's hand that was picking up white rice suddenly stopped. Did he really hope that she would stay abroad all the time and never come back? Ava's eyes felt a bit astringent, but she still forcibly held back her tears. I'll go back in a couple of days. Before she could finish her words, Ethan's phone rang suddenly. The name flashing on the screen was wife. Ethan instinctively glanced at Ava across from him, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. Ava seemed not to have noticed and focused on eating the white rice in her bowl. Only then did he pick up the phone and answer it, but he kept the volume very low. Ava didn't hear clearly the voice on the other end of the phone. She only heard Ethan say, "I'll be back right away." After hanging up the phone, Ethan looked at Ava apologetically and said, "There's something wrong at the company, and I need to go back." "Ava, eat well. I'll invite some friends to have a good gathering with you tomorrow." After saying that without waiting for Ava's reply, he directly got up and left. Looking at his hurriedly leading back, Ava's heart felt as if it had been stabbed hard by a sword. The dream was over, and her heart was completely broken. After going home alone, Ava soaked herself in the bathtub. Since her parents passed away, she had been adopted by Ethan's family. But the nannies in Ethan's family didn't respect her because she was an adopted child, and they even often bullied her both openly and secretly. Once, an nanny deliberately didn't leave any food for Ava so she could only secretly go to the kitchen to find something to eat in the middle of the night. When the nanny who got up at night to use the toilet found out, she scolded Ava unceremoniously, and it happened that Ethan, who had just come home, suddenly saw it. Ethan directly grabbed the collar of that nanny and said, "Who gave you the guts to treat your master like this?" That was the first time Ava met Ethan. This big brother who was 5 years older than her and stood up for her. With Ethan's protection, no one in Ethan's family dared to look down on Ava anymore. On the day Ava graduated from high school, a boy confessed his love to her. Ethan was so angry that he gave that boy a good beating. He pulled Ava to the corner and directly gave her a passionate kiss. He said that he would marry her as his wife after she graduated from university. It was just a casual word spoken in their youth, but she had seriously taken this word to heart. Ava curled the corners of her lips, self-deprecating lie. Just as she was about to get up, she received a message from Olivia. "You should already know everything, right? Since that's the case, we hope you can come to our wedding next month." With the child as a bargaining chip, Olivia didn't pretend anymore. If it had been before, Ava would definitely have called to question the other party, why she had treated her like this. Because in her heart, besides Ethan, Olivia was the most important person to her. But now, everything didn't matter anymore. She had decided to let go completely. They even had a child already. No matter how much she made a scene, in the eyes of others, she would be the biggest joke. Ava didn't reply to Olivia's message. Instead, she sent a message to her supervisor, "Teacher, I've thought it through, and I've decided to stay at school for further study." The teacher replied quickly, "I'm really happy that you're willing to stay. Then when will you come back?" Ava's fingers paused for a moment, and then she quickly typed a line of words. "I'll go to visit my adoptive father tomorrow, and I'll go back the day after tomorrow." After sending it, Ava put down her phone. Since Ethan hoped that she would never come back, she would grant his wish. Just consider it as a wedding gift from her, his sister, to him. The next day, Ava originally wanted to go directly to Ethan's family's old house, but Ethan insisted on taking her to have a meal with his friends. There was no other way. In order not to let Ethan notice anything unusual, Ava had to go to the address that Ethan sent first. When she appeared in the private room, the originally noisy voices suddenly fell silent. She heard someone whispering, "Why is Ava here?" Ethan said that during today's gathering, we should find a way to send her back to abroad, lest she go and ruin Ethan and sister-in-law's wedding. Although their voices were very low, the private room was so quiet that Ava heard every word clearly. The atmosphere was tense for a moment, and someone spoke up to break the silence. "Ava, it's rare for you to come back to the country. Come and take a seat quickly." The person who spoke was a childhood friend of both Ava and Ethan. He had always had a good relationship with Ava, and they had often been in touch over the past year or so. But when it came to the matter of Ethan and Olivia, he still chose to stand on Ethan's side. Ava suppressed her emotions and walked over to take a seat. After a while, Ethan arrived with Olivia. When they saw them, the smiles on everyone's faces became even brighter, and several girls even directly surrounded Olivia. Ava could clearly feel that their attitudes towards her and towards Olivia were completely different. But clearly, she was their friend. Olivia had only gotten to know these people because of her. The emotions in her chest began to surge, and Ava made an excuse to get up and go directly to the restroom. But she didn't expect that Olivia would follow her out as well. "You saw the message I sent you yesterday, right?" Olivia said with great certainty. "Ava, Ethan doesn't love you. Let go. Didn't you once say that you wanted to be the godmother of my child? As a godmother, it shouldn't be too much for you to suffer a little grievance for the sake of your goddaughter having a happy family, right?" Ava still didn't understand the meaning behind Olivia's words. Then she saw Olivia suddenly mess up her own hair, and then slapped herself hard on the face, and even fell to the ground. After doing all this, Olivia looked at Ava with a wronged expression and cried, "Ava, I know you resent me, but Ethan and I truly love each other. You can hit me, but please don't ruin my family, okay? My daughter is still so young, and she can't grow up without a father." As soon as she finished speaking, the door of the restroom was pushed open forcefully, and the person who pushed the door was none other than Ethan. Seeing this, the man strode over, forcefully pushed Ava away with his hands, and then carefully helped Olivia up. "Ava, who gave you the guts to dare to hit Olivia?" Olivia cowered pitifully in Ethan's arms. "Ethan, don't blame Ava. It's all my fault. I told her that we were together, which caused her to have an emotional breakdown." When Ethan heard this, his anger flared even more. "Ava, what does it have to do with you that I'm with Olivia? You're not even anyone to me. Why do you care? I endured your tantrums before, but this time you actually hurt Olivia. Apologize immediately." Ava looked at the two people in front of her in disbelief. One was the person she had once loved the most. The other was her once best friend. Not only did they not feel ashamed towards her, but they also questioned her so confidently. If they really liked each other, they could just tell her, and she would definitely choose to bless them. But why did they team up to hurt her like this? Ava looked at Ethan coldly and said in a cold voice, "I didn't hit her." But Ethan completely didn't believe Ava's words. "I saw it with my own eyes. How dare you still quibble? There were only the two of you here." Could the slap mark on Olivia's face be something she did to herself? Olivia tugged at Ethan's sleeve and said hypocritically, "Ethan, forget it. I'm fine, and I believe that Ava didn't do it on purpose either. No way. She must apologize to you. I've endured enough over the past few years. Let's just lay our cards on the table now." Watching them play off each other, Ava thought it was really ridiculous. The two people she had once trusted so much had now changed. Indeed, people's hearts were the most unpredictable. Not wanting to entangle with the two people in front of her any longer, Ava took a deep breath and slowly said, "Fine, I'll apologize. Olivia, I'm sorry." But Ethan still didn't plan to let Ava off so easily. His voice was cold and heartless. Olivia is my fiancée and the mother of my child. I won't let her suffer any grievances. Do you think you can get away with just a simple "I'm sorry"? Kneel down for me. Ava looked at Ethan seriously, not missing any emotion that flashed in his eyes. But the truth completely broke her heart. Because from Ethan's eyes she could feel how serious he was when he said these words. The other party really wanted her to kneel down and kowtow to apologize to Olivia. Ava sneered and casually spat out 2 words, "Dream on." After saying that, she turned around and left without looking back. She didn't even go back to the private room. Whether it was Ethan or those former friends, Ava didn't want them anymore. Ava suddenly thought of a saying. Promises are like white paper. Once written, they become invalid. Perhaps we all thought about forever, but we forgot that joys and sorrows, partings and reunions have always been difficult to be perfect in ancient times. The person who had always protected her behind him in everything during her youth, not willing to let her suffer the slightest grievance, had ultimately vanished like a bubble. After leaving the clubhouse, Ava directly took a taxi to Ethan's family's old house. This time she left, she might surely come back to the country in the future. On the way, Ava received a video call from James. As soon as the video call connected, what she saw wasn't James's handsome face but a large patch of golden sunflowers. "Ava, look at how beautiful these sunflowers are blooming. I planted them specially for you. Didn't you promise me that as long as the sunflowers I planted bloomed, you would agree to one of my conditions?" James was Ava's junior schoolmate. Although he was also Chinese, he had immigrated to New York with his parents since he was a child. So he had always received Western education and didn't know what it meant to be reserved at all. Since he fell in love with Ava at first sight, he had launched a fierce pursuit of her. At that time, there was only Ethan in Ava's heart. Because she couldn't give him the response he wanted, she had always been very cold towards James. But James wasn't discouraged at all. In his words, as long as Ava wasn't married, everything was possible. No matter how cold Ava was towards him, he always chased after her. Hearing James's words, Ava was directly stunned. She didn't expect that a casual word of hers, he had always kept in mind. Just like herself, she had taken Ethan's casual words seriously. At this moment, her sense of apology towards James reached its peak. When she met those eyes full of anticipation in the video, Ava's heart suddenly softened. "Well, then what condition do you want me to agree to?" James said cautiously. "I hope you can come back. I miss you." Ava's eyes flickered slightly, and she fell silent. James thought she was angry and quickly apologized. "Sorry, I said the wrong thing. I shouldn't have used this matter to force you. It doesn't matter if you don't want to come back. With such developed transportation nowadays, I can also often." Before the person on the other side could finish speaking, Ava directly interrupted. "Fine, I promise you." "What?" The surprise came so suddenly that James didn't react for a moment. "I said I will go back. I've already promised my teacher to stay at school." After thinking for a while, she added, "I bought a plane ticket to go back tomorrow." Hearing this, James's eyes that were about to dim suddenly lit up again. He kissed the direction of the camera several times hard before reluctantly hanging up the video call. When Ava arrived at Ethan's family's old house, she found that red lanterns had already been hung at the door. There were also bright red double happiness characters pasted on the door. The nannies were happily holding wedding candies in the living room. When they saw Ava, they were all extremely surprised. "Miss Ava, you're back in the country?" Hearing the sound, Ethan's father also came downstairs immediately. "Ava, you're back. Did you know that your brother and sister-in-law are getting married soon, so you came back specially to attend their wedding?" Ava smiled and replied, "Uncle Ethan, the school gave me a few days off, so I came back to see you specially. My vacation this time isn't long, so I'll leave tomorrow." Hearing that she was leaving tomorrow, Ethan's father held her hand reluctantly and said, "So soon? Can't you take a few more days off? It's not easy for your brother to be willing to get married. As his sister, you can't miss his wedding." Ethan's father didn't know what had happened between them. He had always thought that his adopted daughter and son just had a deep bond as siblings. Regarding this, he still felt very gratified. Ava shook her head and said softly, "Forget it. I won't attend. Schoolwork is more important. My teacher even called me yesterday to urge me to go back quickly." Ethan's father let out a soft sigh. "All right then. You must take good care of yourself. If you encounter any difficulties outside, call your brother. If you think you're too tired, you might as well come back to the country. Your brother and I will support you for the rest of your life." As if thinking of something, he said with a beaming face, "By the way, Ava, you probably don't know yet. You've become an aunt. Your sister-in-law gave birth to a daughter last month. She looks exactly like your brother when he was a child. I wanted to call you and tell you about it at that time, but your brother said you were too busy with your studies and didn't want to disturb you." How could Ethan's father know that Ethan had actually deliberately concealed this matter? Because he was afraid that if Ava found out, she would go and cause trouble for his wife and child. Ava's eyes drooped slightly, not letting Ethan's father see the sarcasm in her eyes. She took out a gold lock from her bag and handed it to Ethan's father. She had specially bought it at the mall on her way here. "Uncle Ethan, this is a gift for my little niece. Also, please help me tell my brother that I wish him and his sister-in-law a happy wedding and a happy family of 3. Ethan's father took the gold lock and smiled widely. "Good, good, good, good. Our Ava is so thoughtful. Ava, if you meet a suitable boy, you can also bring him home for your brother and me to take a look. Your brother doesn't need me to worry about him now, but your matter is still not settled. Before I die, I must see you get married and have children. Otherwise, I'll feel ashamed of your parents when I'm gone." Somehow, James's face flashed through Ava's mind. Maeva's earlobes felt slightly warm, and she calmly held Ethan's father's hand in return and said, "Uncle Ethan, don't say such things on this joyous occasion. If I really have a boyfriend, I will definitely bring him back to meet you." Ethan's father quickly patted his mouth. "I'm getting old and muddle-headed. I said the wrong thing. Your brother said that your sister-in-law is your best friend. No wonder I took a liking to her as soon as I saw her. She's a good girl. When your brother was sick last time, she stayed by his bedside and took care of him without leaving for a moment. Last month when your sister-in-law gave birth, your brother was so anxious outside the operating room that he almost cried. Seeing how affectionate they are, I'm really overjoyed." Listening to Ethan's father chattering on about the loving details between Ethan and Olivia, even though Ava had already decided to let go, her heart still ached as if pricked by needles. But her pain wasn't because of Ethan. She just felt that it wasn't worth it for herself. Besides that, there were no other emotions. Ava had been in love with Ethan for 10 years, but it only took her 2 days to let go of him completely. She didn't know whether she should feel happy or sad. Just as she was about to find an excuse to leave, Ethan and Olivia suddenly came back. Olivia was still holding the baby in her arms, and the slap mark on her face was almost invisible. Ethan gave Ava a cold glance, briefly greeted Ethan's father, and then took Olivia upstairs. Ethan's father angrily shouted upstairs, "Ethan, it's not easy for your sister to come back. Is this how you treat her? Ava even specially bought a gold lock for your daughter." After shouting, he frowned in confusion. "What's wrong with your brother today? Didn't he used to have the best relationship with you?" Listening to Ethan's father's words, Ava remembered the past. At that time, Ava hadn't introduced Olivia to Ethan yet, and Ethan only had eyes for Ava. Ava was still in high school, while Ethan had already entered university. Knowing that Ava got out of school late, Ethan would always safely send her home before returning to his own school. For this reason, he was caught by the dormitory and several times when climbing over the wall into the dormitory. Once, he was almost publicly criticized by the whole school. Although Ethan's family wasn't short of money, Ethan's father managed his pocket money very strictly in order to prevent Ethan from developing the bad habit of being wasteful. But in order to give Ava a diamond necklace, he endured eating instant noodles for half a year. After Ava entered university, Ethan even used the first pot of gold he earned to buy a small apartment just for her next to her university. He said to Ava at that time, "Ava, in my heart, you mean more than anything else." Ava didn't doubt the sincerity with which Ethan said these words at that time. But she also clearly realized that the current Ethan was no longer the passionate young man he used to be. After all, they had walked on different paths. Seeing that Ava seemed a bit unhappy, Ethan's father offered to take her to see the baby. Ava couldn't refuse Ethan's father's enthusiasm and was also worried that he would notice something, so she had to follow along reluctantly. Entering the nursery, Ethan and Olivia were amusing the baby. When they saw that Ava had also come, Ethan immediately wiped the smile off his face. Olivia, on the other hand, acted as if nothing had happened and warmly greeted Ethan's father and Ava. Ethan's father pulled Ava to the side of the stroller and said happily, "Ava, come and take a look at your brother's baby. Isn't she adorable?" As he spoke, he took out the gold lock from his pocket and placed it in the baby's hand. "Baby, this is a gift from your aunt for meeting you. Do you like it?" But unexpectedly, the next second, Ethan snatched the gold lock back from the baby's hand and then threw it directly at Ava. He looked at Ava warily, as if what she had given wasn't a gold lock but a poison that could pierce the intestines. Ethan's subconscious reaction once again shattered Ava's heart. Ava smiled self-deprecating lie. "It seems that my brother doesn't like the gift I gave." Ethan's father was so angry that he directly picked up the walking stick in his hand and hit Ethan hard. "You ungrateful wretch. Are you on fire today? Ava was kind enough to give your daughter a gift, and this is how you treat her. Are you still her brother?" Olivia quickly came out to smooth things over. "Dad, please calm down. Ethan didn't mean it. 2 days ago, the baby put something clean in her mouth, which caused her to have diarrhea for 2 days. Ethan was just worried about the baby, that's why he did that. Ava, I'm really sorry. Don't be angry with your brother. By the way, you probably don't know the baby's name yet. Her name is Gu Yi. Ethan named her himself. I think the name is too simple, but Ethan insisted that Yi would be his only precious one in the future. Alas, I'm not even married yet, and my husband is already going to be stolen by my own daughter." Hearing this, Ava was stunned. Because a long time ago, Ethan had once told her that their daughter would be named Gu Wei in the future. He said that their daughter would be their only precious one. Ava suddenly felt it was so ironic. Afraid that she couldn't help but expose Ethan's true face in front of Ethan's father, she directly turned around and left. Ava originally wanted to leave directly, but no matter what she said, Ethan's father insisted on keeping her at home for dinner before leaving. Looking at Ethan's father's expectant eyes and his grizzled temples, she couldn't say anything to refuse anymore. Ethan's father had always treated her as his own child, even better than he treated Ethan. This kindness, Ava knew she could never repay. However, the house was covered with big red double happiness characters everywhere, which stabbed her eyes and made them ache. There was no other way, so she could only go to the garden outside to relax. Every scene here was exactly the same as it used to be. Even the peach tree planted in the corner was the same one that she and Ethan had planted together back then. Ethan had once said that when the peach tree bore fruit, he would definitely pick the biggest and sweetest peach and present it to her with his own hands. None doubt the peaches on the peach tree had ripened and fallen to the ground, becoming rotten and decayed, just like the relationship between them. But the rotten peaches could turn into nutrients to nourish the soil. However, the broken relationship between them had already drifted away with the wind and no longer existed. Ava was deep in thought when Ethan somehow walked up to her side. Following her gaze, Ethan also saw the peach tree they had planted together back then. After a long silence, Ethan spoke first. "Ava, you seem really unhappy since you suddenly came back to the country this time. What exactly happened to you?" Ethan's question made Ava feel ridiculous. How on earth could he ask her what was wrong as if nothing had happened? He clearly knew the truth, didn't he? Ava turned to look at Ethan and smiled with a mocking expression. "Ethan, have you forgotten the promises you made to me in the past?" Ethan also turned to look Ava in the eye upon hearing this. His eyes were still as deep as ever, making people unable to resist falling into them at just one glance. Once, Ava had often indulged in these eyes that seemed affectionate, but were actually heartless. But now, when meeting Ethan's gaze, Ava only felt as calm as still water. It seemed that Ethan sensed the indifference in Ava's eyes, and an unnamed anger welled up in his heart. His voice suddenly turned cold. "That was just a joke when we were young. I didn't expect you to take it seriously. Ava, in the eyes of outsiders, we are just siblings, and it's not suitable for us to be together." Ava withdrew her gaze and lowered her voice as well. "Is that so? We're not suitable, but you and Olivia are? Why did you hide your relationship from me? Do you think it's fun to play tricks on me?" Ethan also retracted his gaze. "Olivia is gentle, kind, considerate, and sensible. She's indeed a good candidate for a wife and a mother. What's more, she's your best friend. You shouldn't turn around and hurt her just because you were rejected by me. Ava, since you already know everything, I'll officially tell you today that I don't like you. Stop pestering me. From now on, I'll just be your brother, and you'll just be my sister. As long as you don't make things difficult for Olivia, I'll still spoil you as before." "Brother?" Ava let out a soft laugh. The first time she called Ethan brother, he got angry and told her, "Ava, I'm not your brother. Don't call me brother. In my heart, you'll only be my wife." But now he told her seriously, "Ava, I'm your brother, and I only regard you as my sister." Ava closed her eyes and didn't say anything more. Suddenly, Ethan stuffed a card into Ava's hand. "Ava, everything in the past is over. Before you fully figure things out, just stay abroad for now." A cool breeze blew over, and Ava felt a chill all over her body. But she still clenched the card in her hand and smiled at Ethan, saying, "Thank you, brother. Please rest assured, brother. I won't appear in front of you again to disturb your happy life with sister-in-law." After saying that, Ava turned around and left. She hadn't walked a few steps when Ethan called her back again. "Ava, after all you're my sister, so I'll allow you to attend my wedding before leaving." Ava didn't look back and just sneered. "Sorry, I don't have the time. I wish you and sister-in-law a happy wedding in advance, and a happy family of 3. From then on, her steps wouldn't stop because of Ethan's words anymore. After having dinner, Ava didn't want to stay for even a single second longer. She directly picked up her bag and left Ethan's family's old house. Before the car started, she took one last look at the house. She and Ethan had lived here together for more than 10 years. Once, every corner here was filled with the sounds of their laughter. Now, all that could be heard here was the sound of him and Olivia coaxing the baby together. This place was ultimately not her forever home. It was time for her to leave. Ava's plane ticket was for the afternoon, but she still got up early in the morning, because she planned to tidy up all her belongings. The house she was living in now was under Ethan's name. Since everything had been said clearly, she naturally couldn't continue living here with a thick face. Moreover, this time she left, she might not come back for a long time. So she planned to deal with all the things that needed to be disposed of. She didn't want to stay in this city for a single minute longer. When Ava saw the only photo of her and her parents, she suddenly remembered that the jade pendant her mother left her was still with Ethan. According to her mother, that jade pendant could ensure safety. There was a period when Ethan was obsessed with racing. Worried that something might happen to him, Ava gave the jade pendant to him. Now that she had nothing to do with Ethan, she naturally had to get the jade pendant back. After all, it was a keepsake left to her by her parents and was very important to her. But there wasn't enough time for her to go find Ethan, so she could only call him first and ask him to send the jade pendant directly to New York later. It took a long time for the phone to be answered. Before she could speak, the sound of a conversation came from the other end of the phone. "Ethan, aren't you afraid that Ava will really be disappointed in you, and then stay abroad forever and never come back?" Then came Ethan's dismissive voice. "How is that possible? Don't you know how much she likes me? No matter what I do or who I marry, Ava won't leave me." I'm only worried that on the day I marry Olivia, she'll be ungrateful and come to ruin our wedding. It seems that I need to arrange more bodyguards that day." At this moment, someone suddenly whispered, "But Ava didn't cause any trouble for you when she came back this time, and she's leaving today. She also said that she might not come back in the future." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, and then came Ethan's sneer. "Don't you understand this? She knows that crying, making a scene, and threatening to commit suicide are useless to me, so she's changing her approach and trying to play hard to get. Don't worry. As long as I ignore her, she'll still come crawling back to me like a dog obediently." So in Ethan's eyes, she, Ava, was really like a dog that could be called and dismissed at will, but this time Ethan was destined to be disappointed. Ava sneered. She didn't even want to ask about the jade pendant anymore and directly hung up the phone. She was afraid that if she said one more word to Ethan, she couldn't help but vomit. After thinking it over and over again, she told Ethan's father about the jade pendant, and asked him to help her get it back from Ethan. After handling all the matters, Ava took a taxi to the airport. When the plane soared into the sky, she wasn't as sad as she had expected. Clearly, just a few days ago, she was still madly in love with Ethan. Now she had completely let go of him. Completely letting go of someone who wasn't worthy turned out to be such a relaxing and pleasant thing. After more than 10 hours of flight, the plane finally landed in New York. As soon as Ava walked out of the airport, she almost wanted to go back. The reason, of course, was that James had actually hired someone to set up a banner outside the airport. On the banner, there was a large line of words written in both Chinese and English. "Congratulations to Miss Ava for seeing through the scumbag and soon returning to the embrace of Mr. James." Ava felt her temples throbbing. She quickly put on her hat and secretly prayed in her heart that James hadn't noticed her. But things didn't go as she wished. Just as she was about to sneak away from the scene, a large bouquet of sunflowers appeared in front of Ava. "Ava, welcome home." As he spoke, he forcefully stuffed the sunflowers in his hand into Ava's hand and then gave her a big bear hug. "Ava, even though you've only been away for a few days, I still miss you so much." Ava felt the curious and scrutinizing gazes of the surrounding passengers and gritted her teeth, saying, "James, I just want to beat you up." As soon as the words left her mouth, Ava slapped James on the forehead. But James, with quick eyes and hands, dodged it. The two of them bickered and played around all the way to the parking lot. After getting in the car, James put away his playful expression and asked Ava seriously, "Ava, are you feeling better?" Ava was slightly taken aback and immediately realized that the reason James had done all this today was to make her happy. It had to be said that although this method was annoying, the effect was excellent. Ava's originally somewhat gloomy mood actually dissipated a lot because of James's actions. She couldn't help but turn her head and look at James's profile. James and Ethan were actually two different kinds of people. Ethan was mature and steady, while James was a typical sunny and cheerful young man. Before, she had always kept a distance from him. Besides the reason of Ethan, she also thought that James was young and his temperament was unstable. His liking might just be a whim. But the facts had truly shown Ava. Although James seemed carefree, he was actually more meticulous than a girl. He could keenly sense that something was wrong with Ava's mood just from a short video call. He could figure out what Ava liked and what she disliked through observation. Just like now, he stuffed a box of strawberry candies into Ava's hand. "Eat it. It's your favorite strawberry flavor." Ava looked at the box of strawberry candies in her hand and then at James, who was driving seriously. Perhaps feeling her gaze, James's ears turned slightly red. "Ava, if you look at me like this, I'll think you're going to agree to be my girlfriend." James thought that he would, as usual, not get a response from Ava every time he confessed his love. But this time, he clearly heard the girl beside him say, "Well, James, let's give it a try." James could hardly believe his ears. He parked the car by the roadside and then turned to look at Ava. "Ava, what did you just say?" Ava suppressed the corners of her mouth that wanted to curl up and said in a deliberately cold tone, if you didn't hear it clearly, forget it. James took Ava's hand and his voice couldn't hide his excitement. And I heard it clearly. I heard you say that you agreed to give it a try with me. Ava, from today on, you're my James's girlfriend. Don't worry, I will definitely treat you well and never make you regret your decision today. Ava was infected by James's joyful mood, and a bit of anticipation and excitement welled up in her heart. This might really be the beginning of her brand new life. But there were still some things she felt it necessary to make clear to James in advance. James, there's something I don't want to hide from you. Although I've always told you that I already have someone I like, you don't know who that person is. Before Ava could finish her words, she was directly interrupted by James. Ava, your past is your privacy. You don't have to tell me specifically. I don't care about it. I only care about our future, and I believe that we will definitely have a happy ending. To be honest, Ava was touched by James's words. In her relationship with Ethan. Although Ethan was the one who confessed first, Ava was very clear that it was actually she who had always been chasing after Ethan. But with James, she was the one who was loved more. It was James's appearance that made Ava realize that she was also worthy of being loved. In the past, she was too obsessed with love. She thought that only by loving someone could she be with that person. Now, after experiencing so much, she deeply understood that in fact, being suitable for each other was the most important thing. Love could be cultivated gradually. But if two people were not suitable for each other, even if there was a great deal of love, it would eventually be worn away. Being with James, Ava felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation. This was the feeling that a suitable relationship should have. In the following month, James took Ava through the streets and alleys of New York. They tasted a lot of delicious food that she had never eaten before. Ava even felt that she had lived her life in vain for so many years. Because the days spent with James were really too happy. Ava almost forgot about Ethan's existence. Until Ethan's father called. Ava, your brother is getting married the day after tomorrow. Are you sure you won't come back to attend his wedding? Ava immediately refused, saying, Uncle Ethan, I'm quite busy recently, so I won't go back. Ethan's father looked a bit embarrassed after hearing this. But your brother said that he wants to give you the jade pendant in person. He's afraid that it might get lost if it's mailed. I think what your brother said makes sense. Do you think you can ask your teacher for a leave? After a moment of silence, Ava still refused to go back to the country. Sorry, Uncle Ethan. I really can't get away during this period. My boyfriend's grandmother is celebrating her birthday the day after tomorrow, and I promised to accompany him to the celebration. Ethan's father on the other end of the phone was very surprised and quickly asked. Ava, you have a boyfriend? Is he a foreigner? No, he's also Chinese. When the time is right, I will definitely bring him back to visit you. After chatting for a few more words, the phone call finally ended. Before Ava could catch her breath, her phone rang again. This time it was actually Ethan himself calling. After much hesitation, Ava still answered the phone. Ethan spoke first. If you want the jade pendant, come and get it from me in person. Otherwise, if the jade pendant gets lost, you'll have an excuse to make me take responsibility for you. Ava had been wondering why Ethan was holding on to her jade pendant and refusing to return it. After all, it wasn't something very valuable. Hearing what he said, she finally understood. So he was afraid that she would use this as an excuse to keep pestering him. Ava smiled speechlessly. You're thinking too much. But since you have this concern, I won't force you. Then you can put the jade pendant in the old house, and I'll go directly to the old house to get it when I go back next time. Ethan on the other end of the phone didn't say anything more after hearing this. Just as Ava was about to hang up the phone, his voice came again. I'm getting married the day after tomorrow. Aren't you coming? Ava paused for a moment and replied. No, it can save someone from worrying that I'll go and ruin your wedding. She thought that with things said to this extent, there was nothing more to talk about between them. Unexpectedly, Ethan suddenly lost his temper. Ava, I'm your brother. You don't even come to my wedding. What on earth are you thinking? Ava directly sneered. Brother, didn't you tell me not to go back before? No matter what I'm thinking, brother, you just need to know that I sincerely wish you and Olivia a long and happy marriage. After saying that, she directly hung up the phone. Ava couldn't figure it out. Ethan, wasn't he always worried that she would go and ruin his wedding with Olivia before? Why was he now so persistent in asking her to attend? Ava wasn't lying to Ethan's father. She was really busy now. During the day at school, she was busy with various subjects. After going home at night, she was busy dating James. So she quickly put Ethan's wedding out of her mind. What Ava didn't know was that because of her absence, Ethan lost his temper badly at the wedding. The cause was that someone mentioned Ava at the wedding. Ava really didn't come to make trouble at Ethan's wedding, and she didn't even come back to the country. Do you think she has really given up? Didn't Ethan say that she's playing hard to get and is eagerly waiting for Ethan to coax her? Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter all around. I don't know who suddenly said. I think Ava is serious this time. Have you seen her Weibo update? She seems to have a new boyfriend. This sentence happened to be heard by Ethan, who came over to offer a toast. Ethan directly threw the wine glass in his hand to the ground and then grabbed the collar of that person. Who did you say has a new boyfriend? That person stammered. Ava has a new boyfriend. If you don't believe it, Ethan, look. As he spoke, that person took out his phone and opened Ava's Weibo. The first content on the Weibo was a photo of Ava and James kissing by the seaside. Ethan stared fixedly at the two people kissing in the photo. He didn't even hear Olivia calling him continuously beside him. Finally, it was Ethan's father who stepped in to barely calm down this farce. About another month passed, and Ava suddenly received a call from a friend in the country. Ava, tomorrow is Ethan's birthday. Do you want to come back and take a look? After all, you've always been by Ethan's side on his birthday every year. It shouldn't be any different this year, right? Hearing her friend mention it, Ava suddenly remembered that Ethan's birthday was indeed approaching. In the past, she would prepare a birthday gift for Ethan 2 or 3 months in advance. However, if it weren't for this phone call this year, she would have completely forgotten Ethan's birthday. But they should all know that she and Ethan had basically broken up. Why are they calling now to ask her to go back and celebrate Ethan's birthday? Bo, I forgot. Before Ava could finish her words, the sound of glass breaking came from the other end of the phone. Then came Ethan's gritted teeth voice. Ava, you actually forgot my birthday. Ava asked in confusion, should I remember the birthday of a married man? Ethan was at a loss for words for a moment, and then he said, I'm your brother. Isn't it only right for a sister to remember her brother's birthday? Now Ava was really speechless. Ethan, you should know better than anyone that we're only siblings in name. Moreover, I think you're really contradictory. It was you who told me not to go back and disturb your life, and I agreed. What are you making a fuss about now? You already have your own wife and child. You should go to them when it's your birthday, instead of coming to me, a sister with no blood relation. After all, I don't have the hobby of being a mistress. Ethan fell silent and didn't say a single word. Ava let out a soft sigh. For the sake of the fact that he had indeed helped her in the past, she spoke up to persuade him one last time. Ethan, now that you're married and have a child, you should cherish them and live a good life with them. I'm getting married soon too. I hope that if there's nothing important, we won't contact each other anymore. After saying that without waiting for Ethan's reaction, Ava directly hung up the phone. Then she deleted and blocked the contact information of Ethan and all his friends who were related to him. She didn't want to have any contact with any of them anymore. Moreover, she had indeed accepted James's proposal. Although the time she had been with James wasn't very long. But the level of tacit understanding between them was no less than that of those lovers who had been together for several years. As James often said, they were a match made in heaven. They were destined to become husband and wife and grow old together. In the following time, besides completing her research topics, Ava also had to prepare well for her wedding with James. So she was as busy as a spinning top every day and wished there were 48 hours in a day. That night, when Ava got home, James habitually held her in his arms. Ava, there's something I want to tell you in advance. Ava looked at James with some confusion. What is it? You're making it seem so serious. I have a distant cousin who's coming to stay with us for a few days, and will just be here to attend our wedding. Ava smiled and nodded, teasing. Is it really necessary to be so serious about such a small thing? You scared me. James buried his head in Ava's neck and said a grieved lie. I just don't want anyone to ruin our world for two. If it weren't for my mother's strong request, I wouldn't have agreed. Ava patted James on the back and soothed him softly. It's okay. It's just for a few days. It's not a big deal. At worst, when your cousin comes, you can let him stay in the guest room on the first floor, and we'll live on the second floor. It won't have much of an impact. Hearing Ava say this, James's mood finally improved a lot. Ava thought it was just an ordinary relative coming to stay for a few days. But she never expected that this ordinary relative would be Ethan. The moment she saw Ethan, Ava froze in place. After not seeing him for a few months, he seemed to have become much more haggard. Although his attire showed that he should have dressed up carefully, the tiredness in his eyes couldn't be hidden no matter how hard he tried. Especially after seeing Ava, his eyes were filled with complex and hard-to-understand emotions. Ava felt a bit puzzled. He now had a wife and a child and should be living a happy life. Why would he show such an expression? But the confusion only lasted for a moment. Because Ava knew very well that they both had their own lovers. They were no longer people in each other's lives. So after just one glance, she withdrew her gaze. Whether it was intentional or not, James hugged Ava tightly in his arms in front of Ethan. He introduced Ava to Ethan with a big smile on his face. Cousin, this is my fiancée, Ava. Thank you for coming all the way to attend our wedding. Ethan's eyes were fixed on the hand that James had placed on Ava's waist, and he asked through gritted teeth. Cousin, how did you two meet? James didn't seem to realize that something was wrong and still smiled as he said. Ava is my senior at school. Cousin, you don't know how hard she was to chase. It took me more than a year to get her to agree to be with me. Ava always said that she already had someone she liked. But luckily, that man was a scumbag who let down Ava's deep affection, which gave me a chance. Cousin, I heard that you had two pieces of good news recently. You not only got married but also had a child. Why didn't you bring your wife and child along for a visit this time? Ethan pursed his lips tightly, his eyes always on Ava, who didn't say a word beside him, and didn't answer James's question. He didn't say another word until it was time for dinner. To play the role of a good host, James specifically took Ethan to a well-known Chinese restaurant in New York for dinner. When ordering, he specifically told the waiter, "Hello, please don't put any chili peppers in all the dishes for our table, and don't use any ingredients related to shrimp either." The waiter nodded and went down with the menu. Ethan, as if he had found an outlet for his emotions, said sarcastically to James, "Cousin, it seems that you don't know your fiancée very well. Her favorite dishes are Sichuan cuisine and shrimp, but you're telling the waiter not to serve those dishes." After saying that, he gave Ava a meaningful look. That look seemed to be mocking how inattentive the man Ava was going to marry was to her. Unexpectedly, James just let out a soft laugh. "Cousin, what are you talking about? Ava has a weak stomach and can't eat any spicy dishes. Also, she's allergic to shrimp. As soon as she eats it, red rashes will appear on her body." Ethan suddenly looked up at Ava. "You used to eat them all before?" Ava sneered and curled the corners of her lips. "I'm afraid you've remembered wrongly, cousin. The one who likes these dishes should be your wife." After saying that, she ignored Ethan, whose face looked unpleasant, and turned to James, saying, "Honey, how do you know my preferences so well?" James replied matter-of-factly, "You're my fiancée. I always keep you in my heart, so of course I know all your preferences." James's words made Ava feel as if a warm current was flowing through her heart. Someone once said that to know whether a man cares about you, you shouldn't just look at what he says but, more importantly, at what he does. Ava thought that James was the kind of person who would understand all her preferences and temperaments without her noticing and then silently arrange everything for her. She was very glad that she had met James, and hadn't missed him because of her previous failed relationship. In contrast to Ava's happiness, Ethan felt extremely uncomfortable. He didn't even know how he finished the meal or how he followed them back to James's house. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, that is, he thought he knew Ava very well, but the truth had given him a resounding slap in the face. He thought that Ava would never leave him, but it seemed that she was really going to marry another man. Ava had clearly liked him so much before. For him, she could go to the bar in the middle of the night in the heavy rain to pick up the drunk him. Because she was worried about his safety, she could also give him the keepsake left by her parents without hesitation. Ethan still remembered that before Ava went abroad, she confessed to him in person. She said, "Ethan, I like you. Would you like to be with me?" She was so beautiful under the moonlight that Ethan almost sank into it and directly agreed. But a text message from Ethan's father made him suddenly sober up. Nominally, Ava was his sister. Although they didn't have a blood relationship, that's what other people thought. He didn't know if he had the courage to face other people's gossip. But he couldn't reject such a wonderful her face to face, so he said, "When you come back to the country, I'll be with you." That sentence was just a way for him to fob her off. The day after Ava went abroad, Ethan directly approached Olivia. At first, Ethan and Olivia were just acting and having fun. But later, because he was drunk, he mistook Olivia for Ava and had a relationship with her. After that, Olivia got pregnant, and things became more and more out of control. Looking at how intimate Ava and James were, Ethan felt a sharp pain in his heart, and could hardly catch his breath. Was it true that he had been wrong from the very beginning? That night, Ava and James were chatting about the details of their wedding in the living room. After listening for a while, Ethan's face became even worse. He said he wanted to rest first and then went into his room. Only then did Ava have the chance to ask James, "How could Ethan be your cousin?" James shrugged and said somewhat helplessly, "Actually, he's not really my cousin. It's just that my mother asked me to call him that. There seems to have been an in-law relationship between my family and Ethan's family in the previous generations. But our family has long immigrated abroad, and we haven't had much contact with Ethan's family over the years. I don't know why he suddenly got in touch with my parents." James didn't understand, but Ava could guess some of Ethan's motives for doing this. After much hesitation, Ava still said, "James, Ethan and I." But James directly interrupted Ava's words. "Ava, I know what you want to say. I already knew it." As he said this, he gave a mischievous smile. "Otherwise, why do you think I agreed to let him stay in our house? I just want him to see with his own eyes that you and I are already together and that he has no chance anymore. As an old saying goes, know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles with no danger of defeat. I feel at ease only when I keep the enemy under my own eyes. Since he dared to treat you like that in the past, I will definitely make him regret it. Ava, you are a priceless treasure in my heart, and I won't allow anyone to bully you." Looking at James's serious expression, Ava's eyes became slightly hot. She leaned on James's shoulder and said softly, "Aren't you afraid that I'll rekindle my old feelings with him or something?" "I'm not afraid. I know my Ava. Since you've made a decision, you won't turn back. Moreover, with me being so excellent, how could you still take a fancy to such a man?" James's words made Ava feel warm inside. At this moment, Ava knew that she had found her happiness. The next day, while James was out for something, Ethan directly knocked on Ava's door. Seeing Ethan's bloodshot eyes, Ava was startled. But she didn't ask about it and instead asked expressionlessly, "What do you want from me?" Ethan didn't say anything and just stared fixedly at Ava. It wasn't until Ava became impatient and was about to close the door that he opened his mouth and said, "I admit defeat. Are you satisfied now?" Ava didn't understand what Ethan meant by those words for a moment. Ethan sneered. "Ava, you didn't come back when I got married, and you didn't come back for my birthday either. You even deliberately posted those Weibo updates that could be misinterpreted. You just want to take revenge on me, don't you? You know I won't just watch you play around with your marriage, so you deliberately found someone to marry you. You're trying to force me to give in to you, right? I have to admit that after you've been abroad for more than a year, you've indeed become much smarter and know how to play the game of playing hard to get. Alright, now I'm giving in. Aren't you going to come back with me? After hearing Ethan's words, Ava couldn't help rolling her eyes. After not seeing him for a few months, why had Ethan become so neurotic? Ethan, don't overestimate yourself. It's true that James and I are in love, and it's also true that we're getting married. Whether you come or not, he and I are destined to get married. Also, before today, I had no idea that you were James's cousin. But even if I knew, it wouldn't change anything. I won't doubt James's sincerity just because you're heartless. Ethan's face instantly turned unpleasant. He seemed unable to believe that one day Ava would talk to him like this. He took a step forward and grabbed Ava's arm, growling. Ava, isn't the person you like me? Didn't you say that you would never change your heart? How long has it been, and you've already fallen in love with another man? Ava forcefully broke free from Ethan's grip, and her tone became cold and angry. That's right, I did say that, but at that time, I hadn't seen your true colors. Now that I know everything and that you've always treated me like a dog by your side, why do you think I, Ava, would still like you without any dignity? Do you think I'm that despicable in your eyes? Ethan opened his mouth, wanting to explain something, but he found that he didn't know how to explain at all. Ava took a few deep breaths and tried to calm her emotions. When she spoke again, her tone was much calmer, but still cold and heartless. Ethan, I'm giving back to you the words you once said to me. The past is in the past, and I don't love you anymore. The person I love now is James, and the person I want to marry is also James. If you're willing to bless me as my brother, I'll be grateful to you. If you can't do that, then we can just treat each other as strangers in the future. By the way, if you brought the jade pendant with you, just return it to me. We'd better try not to have any contact with each other in the future. Ethan knew that Ava was serious when she said these words, and his expression froze. After a long while, he took out the jade pendant from his pocket. After Ava took the jade pendant, she said lightly, "Thank you." After saying that, she directly closed the door. The moment the door was completely closed, she clearly heard Ethan say, "Ava, you're just deceiving yourself. I don't believe that you don't like me at all." Ava didn't take Ethan's words to heart. After spending a peaceful weekend, she went back to school to continue her research on the subject. But the originally quiet research building suddenly became noisy. Ava, who was deeply immersed in the laboratory, didn't notice it at first. It wasn't until the door of the laboratory was knocked that she interrupted her experiment irritably. "Senior, there's someone looking for you downstairs." The junior schoolmate who was passing the message outside the door looked at Ava with envy. Ava was confused by such a gaze. She followed the junior schoolmate downstairs to the research building and then saw that on the open space at the entrance, red roses had been arranged into a heart shape. And Ethan, wearing a white suit and holding a large bouquet of roses in his hand, looked affectionately at Ava who was walking towards him. As if not noticing Ava's unpleasant expression, Ethan continued to speak on his own. "Ava, before you went abroad, you told me that if I accepted your confession, I should come to you wearing a white suit and with roses. Now I finally figured it out. The person I like has actually always been you. I know that I've done a lot of wrong things in the past year or so, but don't worry, I will definitely find a way to make up for my mistakes and treat you well." Ava looked at Ethan, who was acting like a clown, with a half smile and said bluntly, "Are you trying to make me your mistress? Do you want me to be the object of your infidelity during your marriage?" As soon as she said these words, the junior schoolmates and schoolmates who had been cheering beside them fell silent instantly. They all looked at Ethan with disdain. Ethan paused slightly, hesitated for a few seconds, and then spoke again. "As long as you agree to be with me, I'll go back to the country immediately and divorce Olivia. It wasn't like what you thought between me and Olivia at the beginning. And I know that compared to me as a person, she actually likes my money more. As long as I give her enough money, she will definitely agree to divorce me." Ava's face still showed no emotion and she just continued to ask, "So what? Why do you think I would abandon such a good fiancé like James and choose you, a divorced man with a child?" Ethan was greatly stimulated by Ava's words. His face turned dark immediately, and his tone was no longer as gentle as before. "Ava, since when have you become so mean with your words? I've already promised to fulfill the promise I made to you before. Why won't you forgive me?" After hearing Ethan's words, Ava was not only surprised but also found it ridiculous. How narcissistic he was to be so brazen. Or did he think that she was a trash can? She could recycle trash at any time. Thinking like this, Ava sneered. "Ethan, don't you think you're ridiculous now? I've clearly told you that James and I are truly in love, and we're getting married soon. I've never liked roses, and I won't like you anymore." Ethan's face turned pale little by little, but he still wasn't willing to give up. "Ava, we've lived together for 10 years. You know how good I was to you before. Just because I strayed once, are you being so heartless to me? Yes, I've made mistakes, but isn't it human nature to make mistakes? Can you guarantee that James will never make the same mistake as me in his whole life?" Just as Ava was about to refute, James's voice came from behind her. "If it weren't for the fact that you did help Ava in the past, do you think you would still have the chance to show off here? I can't guarantee that I will never make mistakes in my whole life, but I will definitely not make mistakes on matters of principle, and I will definitely not do anything to disappoint Ava. Ethan, from the moment you chose to betray Ava, you've already lost the chance to be with her." After saying these words, James walked straight to Ava's side. He placed the sunflowers in his hand into Ava's arms and said gently, "Honey, I've come to pick you up and go home." Ava took one last look at the man she had loved for 10 years, and then without hesitation, she placed her hand in James's hand. "Okay, let's go home." Ava and James's wedding was very grand. Ethan's father also flew all the way to New York to attend the wedding. When he saw Ava and James kissing each other, his somewhat cloudy eyes couldn't help but turn red. The applause at the scene lasted for a long time. Ava looked at so many pairs of eyes full of blessings in the audience, and she knew that she was happy. After getting married, Ava and James settled down in New York. As for Ethan, he was directly escorted back to the country by Ethan's father and never appeared in front of Ava again. The day Ava found out she was pregnant, the news of Ethan's divorce came. He and Olivia actually got a peaceful divorce. But when Olivia left, she took half of the property under Ethan's name. Just as Ethan himself said, Olivia had only taken a fancy to his money from the beginning. As for their daughter, she was left in Ethan's family's old house and was raised by Ethan's father. 9 months later, Ava and James also welcomed their daughter. They named their daughter Evelyn. They hoped that their daughter would shine like a star forever. On the day of Xinhuayang banquet, Ava received a package from her home country. When she opened it, there was an exquisite gold lock and a handwritten letter inside. Ava put away the gold lock but didn't open the letter. James hugged Ava from behind and said softly, "Why don't you open it and take a look?" Ava shook her head and smiled, saying, "I won't read it. The important people are already by my side. Everything else is not important anymore. I just need to know that I'm living a happy life now."